Well, hello and welcome to our first in a series of at-home interviews with chief executives from the technology sector. As a short introduction, I'm Mike Drew, partner and global head of the technology practice at the executive search firm Odgers Berndtson. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Robert Pekowski, chief executive of Logicalis. Bob, a very warm welcome to you.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, I'm the chief executive of the Logicalis Group, as you said, and Logicalis is a $1.7 billion global technology solutions and services businesses helping our clients with their digital transformation.
Fantastic. Bob, thanks so much for joining us today. We wanted to sort of get straight into some questions, particularly around the sort of unprecedented circumstances and challenges that we're facing during COVID-19. Earlier this year, Odgers Berndtson published a Leadership Confidence Index in collaboration with the Harvard Business Review. But one of the key themes, Bob, that came through that particular Leadership Confidence Index was really highlighted the importance of agile leadership. And I'd really like to start there, really to focus on perhaps where you've seen this manifest itself in your organization.
Okay, I mean, there's absolutely no doubts in my mind that agile leadership is required right now from all organizations. We're in a volatile world, right? And you can't survive by sticking to dogma or strict processes that might have got you through running your business in times gone by. You can't even stick to presentations that you might have made to your board a couple of months ago. So no doubt that we're living in volatile times, and every business really needs to reprioritize, and we've had to do that ourselves. I only became the chief executive of Logicalis just over 2 months ago. In that short period of time, I've had to massively reprioritize my sort of to-do list. But as a leadership team, we got together last October 2019 to plan our goals for our new financial year, which starts on the 1st of March. And so you asked me, how has agile leadership manifested itself in our organization? Well, if I think back to that October meeting that we had, two things stand out in my mind. One, right now, it seems bizarre that we were planning 6 months out, things that we were planning to do in 6 months' time. And in this crisis, forward visibility isn't great. And so we've learned that our business planning process needs to shift to a more short-term basis, because even 6 months right now is too long-term to be planning horizon. And that's one of the characteristics of agile leadership: short, focused, very detailed planning sessions that deliver short-term results. But the other thing that strikes me about that October session that we had is that it's not that those original objectives that we came up with 6 or so months ago, probably 8 months ago now, are now completely invalid. It's just that our focus needs to be on different things right now. So it's a reprioritization aspect. So we have been focusing on the safety and welfare of our employees, for example, making sure that we're not putting them or indeed our clients at any risk in the delivery of our services. And like many organizations, we've had to switch from an office-based environment to a remote working environment. So all sorts of transformation style qualities have had to emerge, and agile leadership implies some kind of constant reprioritization based on new information as and when it arises. And in this environment, on a daily basis, we're getting new information which is informing our decisions in a very short-term horizon.
Bob, how have you managed to not overwhelm, your leaders or people within your organisation?
I mean, we've done a couple of team meetings where the theme of the meeting has been something like introduce your pets or introduce your family to everyone else on the call, just as a way of breaking down those barriers about working from home and it being somehow that you're expected for it to be like working in the office when it's clearly not. I mean, a lot of people are doing their calls from rooms that aren't necessarily like this room that I'm in, which is like a sort of purpose office. A lot of people don't have that capability to do that. So they're doing it from bedrooms or from lounges or from kitchens and stuff. And so you've got to accept that there are going to be some complications driven by that and embrace it.
Absolutely. And if you reflect on, what you've learned and how you've pivoted during this period, are there things that you perhaps didn't recognize before whether it be in your own leadership style or in the market generally, that you will absolutely take forward into this sort of post-COVID lockdown era?
Traits that I will absolutely take forward, and they're sort of newer traits, is qualities of empathy and adaptability in particular, and they've got to be a core component of anybody's leadership style in times like this. But I think they will be valuable in the next normal. I mean, I've worked in the corporate world now for around 25 years, and when I think back to leaders that I've worked with in the past and managers that I've worked with in the past, I tend to think of them as one-dimensional. You know, there was the authoritarian leader who was a tyrant. There was the hugely democratic leader who shared every bit of information that they might have had with the team and allowed decisions to come up organically. There was the micromanager. There was the aloof boss. And you know, you can't be one-dimensional in this period of time. You've got to make sure that you open up your management style and be adaptable completely. And that comes from having this sort of more empathetic style. And so, you know, I find that from day to day, I've got to be a transformative leader. I've got to be a leader that's got a cost focus to get the organization through the crisis. We've got to be innovative leaders too, and all these elements of adaptive personality, I think, actually tie in to your first point quite neatly about the survey that you did on agile leadership. They're all components of that piece, and I sincerely hope that I can maintain that ability to switch my style depending on the particular circumstances.
You're right. I think what we're seeing in the market, the one-dimensional leaders are fading into history. You know, you've got to have a high degree of emotional intelligence. Empathy is absolutely critical, and being authentic as well. You know, being authentic in how you lead is essential. These are the sort of new traits. Perhaps they're not new, but these are the traits that are coming through, particularly in this particular moment as well.
And I think just to expand on that a little bit, you know, authenticity is really critical in times like these, and I've seen that level of authentic leadership being displayed by my senior leadership team as well, my executive team around me. And the one thing that I've been particularly impressed about in this period itself was that the quality of the communications that we've done and that they've done in particular have been at a level that's been, you know, absolutely crystal clear. And I think that's a really critical component of leadership in times like these, making sure that you're there's real clarity coming through from any communication and any discussions that you have.
Looking at the power of purpose and how important it's been, you know, through this period, you know, particularly with so many, you know, frontline workers, you know, putting themselves at risk. You know, it's natural that we in other areas, perhaps who are not doing that, you know, think about the meaning of what they do and the meaning of their role. How important do you think purpose is today, and where have you seen that in Logicalis?
Oh, I think now more than ever, it's absolutely essential to have for your organisation to have a purpose. And, you know, we're a technology business, and too often we talk about what we do and how we do it rather than why we do it. But in these COVID-19 times, we've been able to support the creation of new testing centres for COVID-19 with the wireless infrastructure requirements. We've contributed to the building of new hospitals in other parts of the world that are now repurposed as COVID-19 hospitals specifically. So there are some great stories internally that we've publicise as much as we can, because people really want to hear how we're contributing to this crisis, because you're right, we're not frontline workers.
It's a wonderful message, Bob, and one I think a lot of organisations would surely embrace as well. That finishes our part one, and we'll be back shortly for part two.